Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, afternoon, and evening viewers. My name is Latifah Nurfitriana. But before we start anything, let me ask about your condition first, okay? How are you today? Are you happy today? Did something good happen to you lately? Well, I hope everyone all in the best condition so that we can continue our lesson today. Today, we will learn about simple past tense. But, the most interesting part of this learning video is that we will use one of a literary works named prose. Do you guys know what is prose? Okay, let's change the question. Have you ever read short story? What is your favorite short story? Mine is probably Cinderella story. I know it's mainstream, but you know, Cinderella, right? It couldn't be wrong. Okay, what do you feel when you are reading a short story? Do you feel happy? Isn't it fun? Of course it's fun. I myself enjoy short story even now. Okay, one more question, the last question. What we can get from reading a short story? There's a lot of benefit from reading short story. And also, we can use short story for learning. One of the material we can reach from short story is that simple past tense. Okay, one moment please. And I will bring you to the introduction part. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Alright, so as I've told you in the very beginning of this video, that the most interesting part for today's learning video is that we will use one of the literary works called prose fiction. And it is a short story, to be more precise. The title of the short story is Childless, and the author is Shirley Jackson. Okay. So let's get into the introduction part. First thing first, I would like to introduce prose to you. So prose is one of literary works, and a short story is a work of fictional prose. In the fictional prose, the characters usually based on real life people, and also the plot might be inspired by a real life event. But from the name fictional prose, the overall story usually made up than real. The word made up in here means that we usually add more spices to the story. Like we add more tears, we add more joy to make it more dramatic, we add some sugar to make it more sweet. In short story, we have plot. So plot is the literary element that describes how fictional stories are usually organized. So plot, basically what happens in a story. The first element we have in plot is that orientation or exposition. In this element, in this segment, usually is an introduction for the characters and also the setting. And second, we have rising action. This is where the author introduces the conflict, the problem of the story. The character faces the conflict or the problem. And then we have climax. Climax is the most exciting part of the story. This is the turning point of a story. And then the fourth, we have falling action. This is when the events, the problem, the conflict, all leading to the end of the story. And we have resolution. Resolution is the end of the story. In resolution, the characters finally ends the problem. Okay, next. Okay, so now why short story? The first reason is, well, It is very, very entertaining. Short story is very fun. Short story is entertaining. And also, short story also promotes positive attitudes towards different cultures and diversity. Like what I've said before, again, that usually short story, the characters, the plot are based on real life situation, real life event, which makes we as a reader exposed to the different cultures. So it makes us more tolerant, and also it use everyday language. It is very beneficial for us as EFL learner, English for foreign language, because short story use everyday language. We get as close as possible to it. Story builds our imagination up, and also we can use short story for learning English too. Okay, now I will mention the four main goals or learning objective. Also one additional goals in the end. So the first goals is that you as a learner or viewers are expected to be able to change the verb 1 form into verb 2 form. Second, you are expected to be able to create simple past tense sentences. Third, you are expected to be able to write down the moral value. So after we read the whole story, we will do characterization or foreshadowing. And after that, we will be able to draw a conclusion of child's story and also write down the moral value. So act out the conversation scene. This is more than just the basic conversation, but we will have intonation, pronunciation. And the one additional goal is that in the end of this learning video, you are expected to be able to make your own short story. The day my son Laurie started kindergarten, he gave up his little boy clothes. He started wearing blue jeans with a belt. I watched him go off that first morning with the older girl next door. He looked as though as he were going off to a fight. He came home with the same way at lunchtime. "Isn't anybody here?" he yelled. At the table, he knocked over his little sister's milk. "How was school today?" I asked. "Did you learn anything?" "I didn't learn nothing," he said. "Anything," I said. "Didn't learn anything." "But the teacher spanked a boy," Laurie said, "for being fresh." "What did he do?" I asked. Who was it? Laurie thought. "It was Charles," he said. "The teacher spanked him and made him stand at the corner. He was really fresh." "What did he do?" I asked. But Laurie slid off his chair, took a cookie, and left. The next day, Laurie sat down for lunch. "Well," he said, "Charles was bad again today." He grinned. "Today Charles hit the teacher," he said. "Good heavens," I said. "I suppose he got spanked again." "He sure did," Laurie said. "Why did Charles hit the teacher?" I asked. "Because he tried to make him color with red crayons. Charles wanted to color with the green crayons, so he hit the teacher. She spanked him and said nobody plays with Charles, but everyone did." The third day, Charles bounced a seesaw onto the head of a little girl. He made her bleed. The teacher made him to stay inside during recess.
On Thursday, Charles had to stay in the corner. He was pounding his feet on the floor during story time. Friday, Charles could not use the blackboard because he threw chalk. On Saturday, I talked to my husband about it. Do you think kindergarten is too disturbing for Laurie? I asked him. This Charles boy sounds like a bad influence. It will be all right, my husband said. There are bound to be people like Charles in the world. He might as well meet them now as later. On Monday, Larry came home late. Charles! He shouted as he ran up to the house. Charles was bad again. I let him in and helped him to take off his coat. You know what Charles did? He said. Charles yelled so much that the teacher came in from the first grade. She said our teacher had to keep Charles quiet, and so Charles had to stay after school, and so all the children stayed to watch him. What did he do? I asked. He just sat there, Larry said, noticing his father. Hi, Pop. You ought to mop. What does this Charles look like? My husband asked. What is his last name? He is bigger than me, Larry said. And he doesn't wear a jacket. I could hardly wait for the first parent-teachers meeting. I wanted very much to meet Charlie's mother. The meeting was still a week away. On Tuesday, Laurie said, our teacher had a friend to come to see her in school today. My husband and I said together, was it Charlie's mother? Nah, Laurie said. Charles was fresh to the teacher's friend. They wouldn't let him do exercises. Fresh again? I said. He kicked the teacher's friend, Larry said. The teacher's friend told Charles to touch his toes, and Charles kicked him. What do you think they'll do about Charles? My husband asked. I don't know, Charles said. Throw him out of school, I guess. Wednesday and Thursday were routine. Charles yelled during story time. He hit a boy in the stomach and made him cry. On Friday, Charles stayed after school again. All the other children stayed to watch him. On Monday of the third week, Laurie came home with another report. You know what Charles did today? He asked. He told a girl to say a word and she said it. The teacher washed her mouth with the soap and Charles laughed. What word? His father asked. It is so bad, I'll have to whisper it to you, Laurie said. He whispered into my husband's ear. Charles told the little girl to say that? He said, his eyes widening. To say it twice, Laurie said. Charles told her to say it twice. What happened to Charles? My husband asked. Nothing, Laurie said. He was facing up the crayons. The next day, Charles said the evil word himself 3 or 4 times. He got his mouth washed with the soap each time. He also threw chalk. My husband came to the door that night as I was leaving for the parent-teachers meeting. Invite her over after the meeting, he said. I want to get a look at the mother of that kid. I hope she's there, I said. She will be there, my husband said. How could they hold a parents-teachers meeting without Charlie's mother? At the meeting, I looked over the faces of all the other mothers. None of them looked unhappy enough to be the mother of Charles. No one stood up and apologized for the way her son had been acting. No one mentioned Charles. After the meeting, I found Larry's teacher. I've been wanting to meet you, I said. I'm Larry's mother. Oh, yes, she said. We're also interested in Larry. He certainly likes kindergarten, I said. He talks about it all the time. He's had some trouble getting used to school, she said. But I think he'll be alright. Laurie usually fits in quickly, I said. I suppose his trouble may be from Charlie's influence. Charles? The teacher said. Yes, I said, laughing. You must have your hands full with Charles. Charles, she said. We don't have any Charles in kindergarten. We will continue to our first learning objective. You are expected to be able to change the verb want into the verb to form. Okay, so in English we have verb or kata kerja, and it is divided into two categories. The first category is regular verb, and then the second category is irregular verb. So regular verb means it follows the typical pattern. Okay, the typical pattern in here is that it ends with additional d or ed. All right. And irregular verb on the other side means that it is different. So you will have to memorize, but it's not as tough as memorizing mathematical formula. You only need to have intensive reading, and you will memorize the irregular verb by itself. Alright, so I have two verbs in here, which are sleep and work. Sleep is irregular verb because it doesn't follow the typical pattern. Meanwhile, work is the regular verb. So work is the verb. This is the verb one form, and then the right side is the verb to form. Work, and then the verb two is worked. It ends with additional ed. Sleep becomes slept. So it's very different. It does not end with the ed. It is slept. So in irregular verb, you have to memorize it, and regular verb follows a certain or typical pattern. Two examples in here. So for example, we have compare. It is compared. And then die, died. Follow, followed. Guess, guessed. Invite, invited. Open, opened. Right? It ends with either e or ed. It is regular verbs. Irregular verbs, on the other hand, for example, we have can, could. Cut, cut, cut. This is the same. Become, became. What else? We have get, got, got. And we also have grow, grew, grown. So, in here, I also have an interesting worksheet. And your job is only to change the verb one form into the verb two form. But first thing first, you'll need to determine whether this verb belongs to regular or irregular verb. I'll do the number one. Janet, blah, 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 the 8 o'clock train. The word is already given in here. It is catch. So let's see. Catch belongs to the regular verb, but I cannot see it in here because it is only the most common used regular verbs according to www.englishstudyhere.com. But for sure, catch, it belongs to the regular verb. So it becomes catch with ed. So I will write in here, catch. And for the number 2 to 20, you can do it yourself. Okay? Okay, let's get to the higher level. From the previous worksheet, the choices of verb is already picked by the author of the worksheet, but it is different with this one because you have to pick the verb yourself. For example, I'll do the number 1. Harry and his sister blah 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 blah. Okay. Some toys in the basket. I will go with the verb carry because we see the picture in here. I think the most suitable verb for the number 1, carry. And after you decide which verb you'll use for the particular number, you have to change the form. This is only the verb 1 form, and you have to change it into the verb 2 form. So carry belongs to regular verb. You can search online, so it becomes carried. So we delete the Y, and then we change it with I-E-N-D. So carried. So Harry and his sister carried some toys in the basket. So from number 2 and left, you can do it yourself. Okay, so now let's move on to the second learning objective. You are expected to be able to create or to make sentences written in simple past tense. Simple past tense talking about something that has already happened. Sesuatu yang sudah terjadi, sesuatu yang sudah lampau, sesuatu yang sudah berlalu. So basically, the formula of simple past tense is only subject plus verb to. Okay, we have to be and verb. We will go to the to be first. Singular subject like I, he, she, it. Subject yang tunggal, we will use was. And for the plural subject like you, we, they, we will use were. For example, dia dulunya rajin. Dia dulunya rajin. Berarti sekarang enggak. Jadi, seperti formulanya, subject plus verb to form. She, pasangannya si adalah was. So, she was diligent. Dia dulunya rajin. Number 2, kita dulunya pintar. Kita berarti we. If we will use were. We were excellent students. How about if we have verbs? Atau gimana kalau kita pakainya kata kerja? For example, dia sarapan nasi kuning. If we say this word at lunchtime, jam makan siang jam 12, jam 1 siang gitu. She ate nasi kuning for breakfast. She ate. And then, dia jalan ke taman tadi pagi. Tadi pagi. Nah, ini jelas ya, tidak ada kata tadi gitu. Berarti sesuatu yang sudah happened in the past. Sudah terjadi di masa lalu. Jadi, he walked to the park. Ya, walk with the additional ed at the end. Okay. Okay, so now why don't we try to create the first, Laurie is a liar. So, subjeknya tetap Laurie, a liar. Alright, Laurie was a liar. She talks to the teacher. She, talk belong to regular or irregular verb. Yeah, regular, yeah. So we add the additional ed. She talked to the last question. Laurie's mother come to the kindergarten. We have adjective or verb. Okay, another verb. Laurie's mother come is regular or irregular verb. Yeah, it is irregular verb. So come came to the kindergarten. Laurie's mother came to the kindergarten. So Laurie is a liar become Laurie was a liar. She talks to the teacher becomes she talked to the teacher. Laurie's mother came to the kindergarten becomes Laurie's mother came to the kindergarten. Let's see what is our third goal. Okay, you are expected to be able to write down the moral value. For the moral value, we will do characterization or foreshadowing. Characterization means the representation of person in narrative. And in foreshadowing means that hinting at something might or will happen in a story. So this is like a prediction. And now let's look at the story again and quote something that can help us to know who Charles really is. So I have the story here. Oh, this is. At the table, he knocked over his little sister milk. I will bring this to our table. Here you go. And the text analysis will be, what can we infer from this text evidence, from the quotation we took? Author presents Laurie with a poor behavior. Laurie is an older brother. This behavior, that he knocked over his little sister milk, is just not right. This imply Laurie true colors, whether at home or school. So again, let's find more. Can we use this when the mother asks him for some detail? What did he do? I asked. The mother asks. But Laurie slid off his chair, took a cookie, and left just that. I think we can use this as our characterization and foreshadowing quotation. Rather than answer his mother's question, Laurie just left her alone. Laurie didn't answer her mother's question. Yeah, this may imply that Laurie is ignorant little boy. This says, "Hi, Bob, you old dust mop." Laurie said something that he shouldn't say it to his father. This might imply that Laurie is naughty, something like that. Let's see if we could find some more. Laurie seems. Okay, Laurie seems. This might imply that Laurie really want to say that word. I'll stop in the 1, 2, 3, 4. So we already have 4 quotations that can help us to know who Charles really is. Okay, first one is at the table. He knocked over his little sister milk. This is a poor behavior of Laurie because he's an older brother. Why he would do this to his little sister? And then when her mother still talking to him, he just laughed and took a cookie. This might imply that he is ignorant. And then he said something random and not polite to his father, like, "Hi, Pop, you ought to smoke." This might imply that Laurie is also a naughty boy. And then last but not least, he whispered into his father's ear, seemed that Laurie is so happy that he could finally whisper that word to his father without being judged. Yeah, he was so eager to whisper that word. This is very, very questionable, right? So, after all of this work, So we've come to the conclusion that Laurie is Charles. So Laurie is Charles himself. There is no Charles. Charles is an alter ego of Laurie. So Laurie is Charles. And now let's move on to the moral value. Moral value is something that we can get from the story. It tells us about what is right and what is wrong in life. So the first moral value that we could get from childhood stories is that there is an important mental and emotional changes in Laurie, because essentially the message of the story is that the creation of personal identity is difficult and complicated sometimes, and also Laurie's alter ego called Charles. It is a great surprise for the parents, especially the mother, and it also provides the plot twist at the end, but it also shows that there are important mental and emotional changes in Laurie. And for the first time, he's testing boundaries as shown by his various bad behavior in class in kindergarten. And the fact that the author, Shirley Jackson, give no explanation about this behavior means that the author believes that those bad behavior of Laurie is a natural part of growing up. Parents need to know their children very well. Okay, this is the hidden goals or the hidden learning objective is that I would like you to write your own short stories. You can start from your experiences, whether it is bad or good experiences. You can make it like a diary. Make sure you involve some conversation, and also you can act out the conversation. You can do it by yourself or you can work with your friends. Alright, so we've come this far and already finished all the material for today's learning video. Start with the verb to form, simple past tense, characterization or foreshadowing, act out the conversation, and also I would like you to make your own short story. And I would like to thanking all the viewers for the time and participation for today's learning video. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon, and also don't forget to read many short stories in the future. Try to act out the conversation. You can do it yourself or you can invite your friends to come over and do the conversation. Like I said, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and see you on another video.